Hi Dads, Bruce Robinson here from the Fathering Project. I'd like to talk to you now, Dads, about the issue of men treating women with respect. And it's a hot topic now. Of course, we've got problems with school kids, schoolboys, football players, some challenges in politics in Canberra and other places, and we have the ongoing problem of domestic violence. And we're not talking about them right now because the Fathering Project's philosophy, as I'm sure you know, is not mopping up the water but turning off the tap. And that's why we try to get in and talk to dads who've got young boys to teach them those values from a young age so that they carry them forward into their lives. So the Fathering Project has 4 top tips for how to teach your boys to become respectful of the opposite gender. So the first is role modelling it for them. And this is obviously important, and every person I know, and certainly every woman, says that a father has to role model it in the way he treats his children's mother and the girls in the family and every other woman in his life. He has to role model it. Everyone agrees. But there's a limit to that, which is why there are more tips. And the limit is because if you as a dad treat the children's mother with respect, then it may just be that they think that she is worthy of respect. But every woman is worthy of respect. And so it needs more than that. Second rule is to be explicit about that value. Teach your boys to only ever show respect to girls and as they grow up to women. I mean, if you don't get involved in teaching this to your boys, then they'll be susceptible to influences from the movies, from their mates, social media, music, places where they get all sorts of values. And if you're not involved, Dad, then you're giving those influences, which are not always healthy, a free hit. So dads, it's really important to imprint values of respect for women in your boys. And maybe we're talking about starting really young. And you need to be seriously explicit about this. If you see your boys, and they probably will, treating their sisters badly or speaking to their mother badly, or you hear of them insulting girls in the playground because they're girls in the way that boys can do, and I know my daughter got some of that as well, you have to be strong. That is not a family value. I will not tolerate that in this family. We do not do that. Stop it immediately. Don't ever do it again. So dads, don't be afraid about being strong about those values. Remember, you are countering the values that society and maybe the male culture might give your sons. You want them to know unequivocally what your value is and have it embedded in their head. And also, honestly, speak to your daughters about it. Speak to your daughters. For example, we often say in the Fathering Project that the respect that a girl expects from males is set by the dad. So, for example, if you treat your daughters with respect, that bar of respect will be up here, and she will not tolerate disrespect from blokes. But if you set the bar of respect low, that is, you don't show her respect, she thinks she's not worthy of respect. Very important for men to be held to account by women, and very important for your daughter as she grows up to not be held captive to the attitudes of men, but to understand that she deserves respect. The third tip is to teach them empathy for girls, for women. In other words, to help them understand what it feels like for a woman to be disrespected. And they can learn that from you. You can say to them, well, how do you think the girls feel when you do that? How do you think your sisters feel when you steal their toys just because you're stronger and older? But also, women can teach empathy. So the mother can teach your sons what it's like for a woman if she has experienced disrespect. The sisters can teach it. Maybe cousins, maybe other people in the playground. And please don't rely on the school to do this. Schools do a great job nowadays, but it's not enough. Kids have their radar out for what you think, Dad. When we talk about empathy, I'm not sure that everyone quite understands it. And I don't think I did for many years. But in the medical school, we teach medical students empathy. And let me give you an example of empathy. Empathy is about understanding and putting yourself into someone's place. So we say to the students, look, if someone's got lung cancer, they're a young dad and they've got 3 kids and they're going to die. The facts of the case are one thing, but empathy is for them not just to say, oh, I must be sad to be a young dad and not to watch your 3 kids grow up. must be sad, is to actually put yourself into their shoes and think, oh gee, they're never going to watch their kids graduate from high school, never going to walk their daughter down the aisle. And it's not long before you can feel what the other person feels. That's empathy, and that can be taught and that can be learnt, Dad. So please teach your boys to learn to be empathic to the girls in the playground, their sisters, and women as they grow older. Teach them empathy. Help them to understand what it feels like for the other person. And it works in a medical school, and it'll work for you as a dad. Now, let me just say why this works. When you say, this is a value, that's a value that's imprinted up here in the head. But when you teach them empathy, it's in the heart. It's a feeling. And those two things, head and heart, are the secret for your boys to grow up respecting women. They will carry that with them for the rest of their life. And honestly, dads, look at your little boys and say, what sort of man do I want them to be? I mean, you know, what about, just imagine for a moment that they are the person, the male, who's in the newspapers or hauled up before the police or somebody because they have done something abusive to women. You get this imprinted in their head and their heart, and you're... I'm going to get emotional. I mean, look at your boys. What sort of man do you want them to be? What sort of man do you want them to be? Imprint this sort of stuff in their head and their heart, and they will be outstanding young men. Men of integrity and honour, noble men that you'll be proud of them, and they'll be proud of themselves. So, Dad, you have to be intentional about this, or they'll be won over by other forces. So important that they learn how to treat women with respect. It works. Dads, thanks for listening. Look, it's hard to get this right. It's a very touchy subject. I hope that's been helpful. Dads, we'd love some feedback on this, so maybe you can give us some feedback on this issue, and not everyone will think the same thing about it, through our Fathering Project Facebook page.